Welcome back, 9 to noon. You know, PA's out in Cleveland, joint practices, Vikings and Browns. Yesterday, had the chance to catch up with The Athletic's Dianna Russini for a camp chat. And he started things off with Dianna simply asking, how are the joints going?
Already a lot of brotherhood out here. A lot of familiar faces, obviously former Vikings that are now on the Browns. You got guys on the coaching staff that came from Minnesota. Obviously, Kevin Stefanski being the biggest one with the Cleveland Browns being the head coach now. I did notice at the start of practice something I hadn't seen since covering the league, which is in this joint practice, there was about 30 minutes of just friendship on the field, hugging, some pictures, guys just catching up. I loved it. I thought that was such a cool opportunity for these guys to just hang out together before they get in pads and start hitting each other here.
So what do you think of the J.J. McCarthy news that he's going to be lost for the season?
Yeah, you definitely felt just sadness in general for the player when you heard Kevin OConnell step up to the microphone and make that announcement officially. Look, for a player that had already impressed so many people on this team and the coaching staff, and obviously Kevin had shown that he'd had tons of confidence in what he could do already based on this short window. It just breaks your heart knowing that he was on the path to probably getting an opportunity if things worked out for him. So look, he'll miss out on a year, and Kevin OConnell will probably figure out a way to make sure he does not miss a beat and can step back in during the springtime and get back in there.
At DM Russini via Twitter, follow her as 9 to noon does. Once again, senior NFL insider via The Athletic, and we are in Berea, Ohio at the Vikings Browns joint practices. And speaking of the Cleveland Browns, I mean, you probably have seen him before out of shoulder pads and stuff. David Njoku might be one of the most impressive human beings I've ever seen in my life. I mean, what a monster of a man.
So he joined my new podcast, Scoop City, today, and he sat down, and the first thing he said to me was, "Don't I have great skin?" I said, well, you actually do. You have beautiful skin. What do you do? He said, I use soap. I said, that's it? He said, just soap. So for all those listeners out there who are having all those facials and skin treatments, apparently just Ivory soap is how to get it. But 6'5", he is a beast of a human being. I was shocked in my interview he was wearing a shirt. He normally doesn't, but he shared with me that he has started to wear clothing during these TV interviews because too many women reach out to him and show their interest. So look, I think my biggest takeaway from spending some time with David Njoku today was more about what this offense is going to look like for the Cleveland Browns and where Deshaun's at, because that's the story. If Deshaun Watson can play, this team is built to win, and he said that Deshaun simply is better than what we think. So we'll see what that means.
And Dianna, I'm glad you mentioned Scoop City because I haven't listened to the Cliff Kingsbury edition, but I did D'Amico Ryan's, and what a wonderful podcast. I didn't realize it was new, but for those who missed it with D'Amico Ryan's and that super hype Texans team, what resonated with you?
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, it's new. We're about a month and a half in. We're 9 episodes deep. Chase Daniel, the former quarterback, he spent 14 years in the league, 7 different teams as my co-host. And it's a great mix of inside information and we try to really just pull back the layers of all the stories. Sometimes we break news, but most of the time we're just talking about these big stories that we're all following and watching. And we get the perspective of the quarterback, the player, with some of the tone and texture I can provide. And, when I sat with D'Amico Ryan's, my biggest takeaway was the Houston Texans found their guy. And I'm not talking about C.J. Stroud. I'm talking about their head coach. He's going to be there a long time based on just his ability to lead these guys, understand them, his empathy, his energy. He is made up of all the right things. I mean, it's actually not shocking considering this guy was a captain his rookie season, obviously at Alabama, and then professionally his early years. So he knows what it takes to win. But what I liked about what he shared about his team was he does not have the hype that we have about them. He's not given into it. And he mentioned, and he said it quickly, but it stood out to me, that C.J. Stroud needs to do a better job with the mundane, right? So be better at the basics, the simple, the fundamentals, because that's what the greats did, the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Mannings. They mastered the everyday. And I think that is also a testament to how I'm sure a lot of parents feel with their young children of you can't just go fancy. You have to just do it the hard way and work your way up. So CJ's obviously got all the confidence in the world. He's a tremendous human being, but in terms of how this team takes to him, he is clearly the leader there. But I like the fact that coach knows he still has a lot more to learn in this game.
A couple more with Dianna Russini so we can get out there and watch practice. Now, I'm glad you said that about D'Amico, because truly in my discernment leads me to believe with Kevin Stefanski, who just got his second deal with the Browns, and Kevin O'Connell here, I feel like these two are long-term coaches, more so than for the numbers and points they put up, but the culture that they've created.
1,000%. I am definitely excited to see what the Vikings organization does in terms of making a decision to extend Kevin at some point here. It's deserved, the respect around the league. And look, we quickly throw out Sean McVay's brilliant mind, Matt LaFleur. Kevin O'Connell is right in there. He is one of those offensive-minded coaches that understands not just how to have success with the quarterback and what he's doing on that side of the ball, but his leadership skills and his ability to navigate a lot of the choppy waters, especially what we've seen the last 4 months. Minnesota's taken a hit in a lot of different ways, and this team is staying together, and that does not happen everywhere. It does not. I cover all the teams, so the fact that there's a culture that has been instilled, they're bought in. You're already off to success, and so now hopefully it can translate on the field this year with Sam Darnold.
And lastly, you being a Jersey girl, and an insider, a reporter, TV, podcasting, radio, the whole thing. So you were there when Sam Darnold was taken third overall. His years with the Jets were ballyhooed, but it just didn't work. Clearly, he's with a different type of skill set here. So Sam Darnold as starter for the Vikings, from what you remember to where he is now with O'Connell, Jefferson, Addison, Aaron Jones, and the rest.
Here's what I'll share. Almost every single season, I will have a conversation with a coach in the league that isn't directly coaching Sam Darnold. It will be a coach that was interested in him coming out of the draft, a coach that played against him, and it will be said to me over and over how good Sam Darnold is. And I think, unfortunately, because he hasn't really struck any lightning yet, he hasn't really been electric and put together a full season of success, there is something there. And I'm really interested to see how Kevin O'Connell is going to tap into that in a way that no one else has been able to, because it's there. The raw traits and the skill set, which is why when the Vikings signed him in the offseason to join, it made all the sense in the world. The price seemed high, I think, to the normal fan, was like, whoa, that's a lot of money for Sam Darnold. But in terms of what I think Kevin can get out of him, it makes all the sense in the world.
All right, wait. You're an elite insider. I can't leave without an elite insider type question. Brandon Ayuk, anything new? Any predictions?
He needs to make a decision. That's where we're at. And it has been the best summer series I have watched. I've never covered a story like this. It's so much fun because it's interesting. And I hope for his cause, he gets what he wants. And I hope for San Francisco, they find the player, if it's not Ayuk, to fill that void, because it's obviously a big one. You see how much success he has in a Kyle Shanahan offense. So, look, I don't know for sure at this moment that he will be a San Francisco 49er, but I certainly know he wants to be there.
You're so good at what you do. Congratulations on Scoop City. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your support.
That's The Athletic's Dianna Russini. She's not only a reporter, but an insider, as you heard there. She's bouncing camp to camp to camp, doing podcasts. You can follow that via The Athletic at DM Russini on the Twitter/X machine, doing it's kind of a camp chat with PA from yesterday. Tomorrow, by the way, and that's what PA is doing, not only going to these joint practices, and when we come back, we're going to do some Vikes Bites, and I'm actually going to pepper PA with some questions I have, not being able to see these practices in person. But tomorrow during the Friday Feast, you're going to hear more conversations, including, I believe, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler is going to be in the mix tomorrow, so looking forward to hearing that. And that's the fun of this Cleveland bit, is the ability to catch up with some of these people in a time in which there's work to be done, but some fun as well, and the opportunity to chat with some of these NFL-wide reporters. That's definitely in the mix 9 to noon. You will later on also hear a replay of PA's conversation with the coaches, the Coach's Corner, the Kevins. Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota Vikings head coach, Kevin Stefanski, Browns head coach. It was a terrific conversation. You'll hear that on the back end of the show. But next, as I mentioned, Vikes Bites. It's 9 to noon, final hour.
They've been pining for it throughout downtown Cleveland. It was the talk of joint practice yesterday in Berea, Ohio. And we're a little late to the scene now, generally given it takes place in the first hour, 9 to noon. Well, I'm talking about Vikes Bites. Vikes Bites led by Nordo, provided by
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. It's a Minnesota company, Clearwater, Minnesota. And you can find them at thousandhillslifetimegraze.com. Elite product, regenerative agriculture. And as a matter of fact, they're into the sports scene, PA, because they are helping to keep athletes local, Dinkytown Athletics, and they're actually feeding the football players. They're on their training table. So elite product, and you can find it at your local co-ops and Coburns as well. But Thousand Hills, a terrific sponsor. I want to start with something that really has nothing to do with Cleveland, PA.
Because I have a Browns Bite whenever you need it.
Ooh, Browns Bites.
Browns Bite, red light, green light, neon light, flashlight.
So before you guys embarked for the shores of Lake Erie, there was a report that Stephon Gilmore would be visiting the facility. I believe he did so, actually, in earnest on Monday. Walks away without a deal.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if we can get any inside intel, if there's any available near you at this moment.
It's all over the place. I got intel crawling down by my feet.
Falling out of your pockets. Hopefully you're wearing those no-show socks.
Stop that.
But he leaves without a deal, and I was of the mind, if this was something that was absolutely, at this time of camp, you're not just kicking tires. This isn't part of a dinner circuit tour. You're meeting with teams under the pretense that if everything's good, you're going to make a deal. And no deal was done. No news really of it thus far. Whether it's watching the joints, you saw what you saw on Saturday and moving on. Does that surprise you at all? Or we're happy to go on to the next one? I just don't feel like we're completely finished at corner, and Stephon Gilmore's been in the building, and there's no deal yet.
Well, what surprises me is you are not being forthright with the 10 of 10 reason you want Stephon Gilmore on this team. So you can play the soundbite from the Indy game where I said Justin Jefferson should whoop his butt for what he just did to him. That's the only reason you want him on this team.
Well, correct, because and frankly, have we even gotten to do the no bit with Josh McCown yet? I mean, are we this far down the road?
No, Spearfish keeps shutting us down.
And that's what I was thinking, too. A little help from Sam and the PR, that wouldn't hurt anybody.
Because they've been terrible with Pettin and McCardell.
They've been awful with it.
Stefanski, just 1 to 10. Right?
Completely unhelpful. But if the day that Gilmore joins the show, you got to do a quick 3 minutes. And
we're not doing that.
Okay, fine.
No, because then I might be the next one he jacks up.
No, that's true.
I mean, you don't know the personality types. Stephon Gilmore, new Minnesota Vikings join. Let's just get this out of the way, Steph. Can I call you Steph? Cool. We got a good vibe. When you jacked up Justin in that weird Indianapolis game, were you concerned somebody was going to come off the sideline and whoop your ass? I don't think that's the greatest way to start an interview. I got a Browns bite for you. You ready?
I'm ready. Browns bites.
Browns bites. I don't know who's in charge of stadium naming and stuff like that, but somebody's taking an L here. Because we play at US Bank Stadium. In a week and change, we'll play at Lincoln Financial, and then the regular season begins at MetLife. Okay, Lambeau's one thing. You don't jack with the name Lambeau Field, or really Soldier Field. It's immortality. But they've had names of this stadium here, but it's now called Cleveland Brown Stadium. So somebody's taking a naming rights L, and hopefully they're able to get out of it alive.
No, that's how could they? I mean, we're talking tens of millions of dollars, right? I mean, and if only you had someone near you to give us the deep inside steam on whatever that contract looked like between U.S. Bank and the Minnesota Vikings. You're missing out on a lot of cash. Pitbull, the hip-hop club artist Pitbull has naming rights to some college stadium in Florida. How can we not name an NFL stadium? How can we not get some Cleveland cash? There's got to be good companies in the Cleveland area. What about Cleveland Clinic? They're swimming in money. So let's get some naming rights in the mix here. That's a great question.
Right, it's unbelievable. I just hope somebody's not taking a massive L, kind of like on my 1099s these days. Hey,
Vikes Bites. Thank you, Thousand Hills. You talked a bit about this with Gabe during the second hour, but I saw this Christian Darrisaw talking after practice yesterday that Myles Garrett, I mean, as good as it gets in the league, and he said, quote, he's special. one of one. I haven't gone against nothing like that before. The things that he's capable of doing, he uses all his tools in his bag. And we played you and Dianna Russini last segment. You're talking about David Njoku, and these guys are just absolutely cut out of stone. They're all elite, high end, but Myles Garrett just doesn't look human. I mean, if you see him in person, and kind of speaking to the testament of some of these one-on-one opportunities, some are more fruitful than others in strength versus strength. But that had to have been as marquee a matchup as any yesterday at the joints.
Well, when you're Myles Garrett, I mean, some people have rules, some have guidelines. He's part of the guidelines. So if everybody's out there X amount percentage of plays, then he's probably going to be out there less. Why? NFL Defensive Player of the Year. You know what you're going to get in 95. The early stages of Darrisaw versus Garrett, Christian was winning round after round. Then all of a sudden we get to the fourth round, and I mentioned it earlier a couple of hours ago with Bursic. Garrett faked outside. I mean, it was complete playoff type move from this defensive end. He brought everything. Faked outside, went inside, and with just his right arm, he was able to push Christian off to the side a little bit. Now, that takes a strong right arm, and he got in there quick. Probably would have been a sack. All right, Christian learned from it. Myles tried the same move like 4 reps later, and it didn't work. So then he tried a different move, and he got around Christian. And then Christian forced him into a stalemate, and there was a complete pass. So that A versus A, wow. I mean, you talk about a couple of high-enders there. And for Christian to be able to go against Myles Garrett before the regular season, I mean, I just can't stress how important that experience is moving forward.
Vikes Bites, is there a player in this next round of joints? I love the way you put it, as if you had to pick a winner and a loser in yesterday's practice, you'd say that the Cleveland Browns collectively maybe won that battle yesterday among the joints and the one-on-ones and everything that took place. Later today, is there a particular player that you are interested in seeing maybe winning their opportunity on the field, the land of opportunity that is this Vikings roster?
Yeah, it would be the back judge who worked on the second field, who would not call pass interference on Grant Delpit and some other rube when Justin double moved him into what would have been a 70-yard touchdown. So, and Justin was frustrated by it too. Then he laughed it off, and then he worked out for like 30 minutes after practice, running routes and catching passes. But from a player standpoint, you know, it's an overall kind of vibe and theme, and I have no idea what the coaches are saying to their players. I know these Browns and Zadarius Smith will practice today, I believe. So, you know, now you got somebody super physical when he tries and super loud.
Yeah.
The Browns are loud. They talk a lot of trash, and they're very physical. So forget the trash talking, forget being loud, match that physicality today. Take the punch to Shelby Harris. Take the punch to these Browns who are loud, and they're good. This could be the best defense in the National Football League that we're seeing right now, specifically when it has its full complement with like Dalvin Tomlinson, maybe Jordan Hicks in the mix, and Denzel Ward, who didn't practice yesterday. So today's going to be the bomb. Yesterday was Covenant Catch-Up Day and get together with AFC and NFC, Kevin. Today is round 2 of this fight, and I fully expect the team with whom or for whom we are rooting, I'm looking forward to seeing a punch back from certain phases of Vikings football today.
Have you seen Zadarius walking around at all? I mean, he leaves Minnesota kind of on a weird note.
He cut his hair and looks like Everson Griffin.
He does, really? Okay, because he leaves the team, and there's kind of a little bit of negativity there. Didn't have the money, didn't want to have the money to re-sign him, whatever, goes to Cleveland. But, you know, on a day when you were talking about that is people catching up with people. I saw pictures of Stefanski talking to C.J. Ham and some of the other guys that he knew, of course, from his time, Harrison Smith from his time in Minnesota. Was there a lot of joking around with Z?
Oh yeah,
yesterday.
I mean, but you know, there aren't many players on this team, or there are players on this team with whom Zadarius played a couple of years ago. I'm not exactly sure how close he got to those players offensively, but the Covenant catch-up common thread yesterday was Harrison Smith. I mean, because like everybody around the league knows, respects, and loves Harrison. They all know he's right at the end. They all know he's still really good. And Stefanski, you know, in the bit that you're going to play back here around the corner, I'm glad Spearfish Sammy suggested I put a Harrison Smith question in there, because quite honestly, it was my highlight of the interview, hearing O'Connell and Stefanski talk about Harrison Smith, especially with O'Connell being as honest as he was. He's like, yeah, Harrison is one of my, if not my favorite players ever, and here's why. Unless Justin Jefferson's walking in earshot of these speakers, well, then Justin's my favorite player, and here's why. So it was really cool. And the respect that those coaches have for Harrison Smith, the respect the players have for Harrison Smith, it's fantastic. I just absolutely love it.
Vikes Bites, presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed. That's all I got for you, PA.
All right, brother. I'll have more for you from Joint Practice Day 2 tomorrow. And we have an interview with ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Try to run down a few more things today. Appreciate the contribution. And coming up around the corner, if you missed the sit-down with the Kevins, O'Connell and Stefanski, we're going to replay it next at FM 100.3 KFAN.